Okay, we left off on there was a discussion between Rameh and the Chachomim. If a person emancipates a slave, is it a schus for the slave or not a schus for the slave? So the Chachomim say that the shliach who's given the get shichur to free the slave, if he wants to take that get shichur and take possession on behalf of the slave, he can. It's a schus lo. Rameh says, I disagree. It's a chov. It's a detriment. So he says, what's the proof? What is the area of detriment? If he's the slave of a Kohen, so if he takes possession of the get shichur on behalf of the slave, he can no longer eat truma, even though he may be a Jew. He's emancipated, but because he's no longer the asset, the chattel of the Kohen, he's not able to eat truma. So that's a detriment. It's a loss. So the Moret said, but factually, it's not really a chov because the master could free him in either case. Factually, the master wants to free him. Why is it a detriment? Because the slave wants to continue eating truma. But since the master could terminate that right by giving the get shichur directly, so if that's the case, being freed is not considered a loss because that's inevitable. That's happening. Because the master could free him against his will. Wait. No. No, wait. No, we're not there. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. So the Gemara says no, because the slave could evade the master, even if the master wants to emancipate him. But that right he can't necessarily take away from him. It's only if he gives him the get. But what happens if the slave evades the master? So he remains the slave, and he's still the chattel of the master. So if that's the case, he can continue eating truma. Right? This was the dialogue between the Chachomim and Reb Meir. And the same thing with Uma Ilu, Eved on top. Eved Kohen Sheborach. The Canaanite slave and Eved who flees. Veishas Kohen Shemordo, Al Bailo. Or the wife of the Kohen who's defiant and doesn't pay attention, doesn't heed the order of the husband. Halu Ochlam B'Truma, as Rameir says. They continue eating Truma. V'zeino Chel. And now as a result of what? Taking possession, he's not able to eat. So if that's the case, it's a detriment to him. This is where Meir is saying to the Chachomim. So that he answers, said Morsa Shapa Kamalei. So evidently, Meir is saying something correct. So why isn't it a detriment? The only reason why it's not a detriment is because the master could cause him to lose the right in either case, but factually can't, because if the slave evades the master, so what? He continues to be a slave and he continues to have the right. So by the person taking possession of the get on behalf of the slave, it's immediate. The master giving the get has to be put into his hand of the slave, correct? That's the shlich l'locha. But shlich l'kabbalah, you only become the agent of the recipient only if what? If it's a schus, the slave's not interested. Because the master can't free him unless he gives it directly to him. And since he could evade the master and retain the right to eat truma, by taking possession on his behalf, you're causing him a loss, a detriment. So how could you take possession? That's Reb Meir's point to the Chachomim. Okay? What do you want to say? Really?
How does the slave, so the slave has to take possession of the document?
It has to be given the doc by the master to be freed. But if the slave could always evade the master's action, so he remains the possession of the master, and since he's a Kohen, he continues to eat truma. Could sell him. Wait. That's Rava. Samar says. Wait. That's the Mor's question. So Shabbat Kamalu, evidently Rameir is saying something correct. So why did Chacham say it's a schus, right? Amar Rava. So Rava answers. This is what they respond. This is the response in the Mishnah. Neishu Kinyano. So they say because he's his chattel, he's his acquisition. What does that mean? The boy shokal arba zuzim Yisrael uposale. He could flee. He could do whatever he wants. What happens if the master, the Kohen, takes 4 coins and sells them to a master who's not a Kohen? The moment he becomes the possession of a non-Kohen, his truma rights come to an end. So since that right could be taken from him, whether he likes it or not, because the master owns him, it's his chattel, and he could transfer to a third party who's not a Kohen. So that, therefore, taking possession on his behalf is not a detriment, because the slave always, the master factually wants to emancipate him. But as much as he wants a master, he say, well, but the slave has a way to retain his rights. The slave has no way to retain his rights, because if the master wants to terminate it, and he will terminate it by selling him to a master who's not a Kohen, those schusim, those rights are terminated.
So the slave escapes. He should not be allowed to eat truma because he doesn't know if the master.
No, we mentioned Tosas Kasha yesterday. That's Tosas' question. Tosas asks, right? Mashva di orik ochel b'truma, v'im tom alecho shema mochro li Yisrael mitzvah b'truma. That's Tosas' question. Yishlom b'do shchiach sheikneu Yisrael b'acha sheborach. Who's going to buy this kind of slave? The slave's a rebellious slave, right? So likely he wasn't sold. Therefore, he continues. So, but what happens? He buys it at a great discount, because the Gemara says he'll sell him for 4 coins, right? Factually, the man wants to emancipate him. So you understand? So the master is not looking to make money on this. So if he's going to be defiant and he wants to clip his wings, do it easily. He'll take 4 coins from a non-Kohen master, and he's lost his rights.
Why would the master want to emancipate the slave? If the slave runs away, and he's not going to get anything for it except a couple, barely anything, what's the advantage of the master selling?
The master wants to emancipate. First, we're going to have to more later. You're not permitted to free a slave. So this is the Oraisa. Right? Because it says avodol. It says v'snach altamosel nechbach rechem. And it says v'avodol olam. He has to be a slave forever.
So why would he ever get here?
No, but there are times that you could emancipate a slave. The Gemara tells of a story. The Reb Lozer needed a minion, and they only had 9 Jews, and the slave can't be counted into the minion. No, not Tevi. Not Tevi. So he freed the slave to make the minion. So the Gemara asks a question, but it's how do you do it? It's a Torah violation. So Gemara says because since they needed a minion, so becomes the overriding factor. So Tosa says it's something you're not permitted to free him where, meaning to do the slave a favor, meaning you're giving a gift to give him a gift. But we're the beneficiary over here, and the mitzvah, it's a mitzvah beneficiary. The beneficiary is from the context of mitzvah, that becomes an overriding factor.
That's the worst thing, the beneficiary.
You have a minion.
Runs away.
No. Theoretically, he could do it. No. He's selling him. He's staying a slave. Here, with they were saying the reason why it's not a detriment to take possession on his behalf, because of the master factually wants to free him, but he could evade him. The answer is he can't evade him. To be able to retain the right. Because if the master wants to sell him to another master, which he's permitted to, he's lost the right. Therefore, it's not classified as a detriment.
So they're falling off this argument. The Gemara is not falling off. That's not the way to understand the Rameir.
No, Rameir is a problem. They're answering Rameir.
So it's a problem for Rameir.
It's a problem for Rameir. Right, it's a problem for Rameir. Right? No, but the Gemara is going to ask a question now. The whole discussion now between Rameir and the Chacham is by Eved Kohen, because it's a truma. What about you want to take possession on behalf of an Eved? That's an Eved Yisrael. What detriment is there? I mean, he's going from slave to free man. It's all gain and there's no loss. That's going to be the Gemara's question now. Ula Rameir, and we'll see in a moment. Tenach Eved Kohen. According to Rameir, based on his rationale, if the Eved of Kohen, by taking possession of his behalf, he's losing that right. Eved Yisrael, Michael Amema, what rights does he have? Here he is a slave. By taking possession on his behalf, he becomes a free man. So this is definitely a schus. But Rameir doesn't differentiate whether he's Eved Kohen, Eved Yisrael. Either way, you cannot take possession on his behalf. Right? So the question is, why is it a detriment?
Without the truma.
If there's no truma right. But let's get back to the original thing. I mean, seemingly what the Chacham is saying, they're answering him, they're saying correctly. Since the master in either way wants to free him, and the master can deny him the right of truma by selling him to another master who's not a Kohen, therefore it's not a chov. So, but Rameir says it is a chov. Is it a chov, not a chov? What does the Mishnah say? The master gives the get to a shliach lo locho. Can the shliach lo locho become the shliach lekavola, based on the principle of zochon lo mishalo b'fanav? Right, that's the discussion. And it says, and therefore, according to Rameir, before the get arrives in the slave's hand, the master could retract. According to the Chachomim, he can't retract any longer, because the moment he gives the get, the slave is emancipated immediately. Because, I understand that, but according to the Rameir, because again, it's true, it's a chov. Why isn't that a chov according to the Chachomim? Because you see, the master wants to free him. And either way, he's going to lose this right. It's not so simple he's going to lose this right. Because what happens if the master wants to change his mind before he gets the get? By you taking possession on his behalf, he's losing every chance of retaining his rights. His right of truma. According to Rameh, he doesn't lose that right. Until he receives the get, it's true, he could free him against his will. But how is he freed? He has to receive that get in his hand. You want to preempt the master by taking possession immediately. The slave says, don't do me any favors. It's true, the master could take that right away from me immediately. But at this point, the process we're following now, until I receive the get, I still have the right. Right? The question is, not right. Once it's set in motion. It's set in motion. Is that seen as chov or not chov? Not despair. That has nothing to do with despair. No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't forgone the right.
According to the Chachamim, you have to say that.
It's not a chov. It's not a chov. Since ultimately it's going to be terminated, come to an end very soon. So the few moments earlier, that doesn't make a difference. Therefore, it's not classified as a chav. The overriding picture is you becoming a free man. That's a schus. This temporary loss from the time it arrived till it arrives in your hand. That versus the total picture, it's totally negated. He values that moment. He values that moment.
And that's really the argument.
That's the argument. It's true the master could terminate him. But factually, the master didn't say he should take possession on behalf of the slave. He didn't. He says, I'm making you shlich lo to deliver the get.
But we still have the issue that the master can sell it.
The master, factually, the master wants to free him. But how does the master want to free him? With a shlich lo locha. Right? You will represent me to deliver the get. So in the master's mind, when is he going to be emancipated? When the get will be put in the slave's hand. But if it's a schus, but if it's benefit to the slave, the one who receives it can become the shlich lekabbalah. He can represent the slave. No, if he says he will not be freed until, because that's the conditional get.
The other way around. He says, take the get and also become the shliach for the Eretz. He can't make him a shliach.
Can't, of course not.
But then it's obvious that's his intention, that he wants to give it now and not change his mind.
But he says that he changes his mind afterwards. If actually the slave did not take possession based on the principles of Zochel Mishal B'Fanov, if the master changes his mind and wants to retract, he could retract afterwards. Right? Because the emancipation did not take place.
So where's the disadvantage to the slave at this point in time?
What's the disadvantage? Because if the master should change his mind, firstly, there's that interim period till he receives it. He still can eat truma.
But only if he's a slave of a...
He is the slave of a Kohen.
No, but
Factually,
using that to generalize.
No. The Gemara is only introducing the concept that he could forfeit that right. Therefore, that's not considered really a right. Factually, the master wants to emancipate him. It takes an hour from to get the get, or a day from the time it's sent till he receives it. The shliach who receives it cannot, according to the mayor, take possession on behalf of the slave. It's a detriment. Of course, even though in 24 hours he's going to be emancipated.
Can't retract.
According to the mayor, he could retract. According to the mayor, he could retract. It's a chov.
It's a chov, right?
He could retract. But we're talking about 24. In 24 hours, the Eved will have this get in his hand.
Right.
And it's over. Everything is terminated. That, Rebbe says, that's a chov. Because the right to truma is a right, and by you receiving his behalf, you're denying that right. So the Chacham say that's not really a right. Why? Because that right could be terminated immediately. He doesn't see it as a special right, because if the master should choose to sell him, that right is not really his to keep. So the slave doesn't see it as a detriment to lose that right. Rameir says, I do see it as a detriment. Presently, I have it as long as I have it. Wait, we didn't get to the show. I'm trying to explain. So therefore, Rameir is of the opinion, as long as I have it, I have a right. Deny me something I have now, that's a chov. Therefore, you have no right to represent me. The Chum say no. That because it's so temporary, and it can be taken in a moment, or in a short period of time, versus all that the slave has to gain, he doesn't see that as a detriment. You look at the total picture, he doesn't see that as a detriment.
But again, as far as Rabbi Meir is concerned,
He sees it as a detriment.
what would he say about the slave of the Yisrael?
The Gemara, we didn't give the answer yet. We didn't give the answer on that.
Because this whole logic doesn't apply.
Exactly. That's the Gemara's next question. So what about a slave of Yisrael? What does Rameir say about that? So the Gemara's going to say something else. And the Chacham will argue on that. Well, let's read it. Omer of Shmuel bar Yitzchok Meshem Afsida Mishivcha Kiranis. Hear this? As long as he's a slave, he's permitted to have sexual relations with a Canaanite woman, slave. So he's denying him that. You know, a person can marry a whatever, a subhuman being, or can marry a princess. As long as he's a slave, he can't marry a princess. Now that he's emancipated, he can marry a princess. So that's called you denying him something. That's a detriment, right? This is the ultimate merit. What do you mean the reason why it's a detriment? Is because he's denying him, he can no longer be Rishivcha Kanani. To the contrary, he's permitting him in a Bas Chorin, in a Jewish woman. Avdo be'efkera nichale. Hear this? An Eved is an Eved. What kind of a human being are we talking about? He's Hefker. What's Hefker? Nichale. Zilale shchichle pritzale. You know, the woman's from the same ilk. She's available to do every perversion with him, and that's what they're accustomed to doing. A regular Jewish woman's not going to be engaged with him the way he's used to. He prefers that over Bas Chorin, over being a Jew. Look, that person's alcoholic. You know, the bottle is first and foremost. That's it.
So then, with this logic, you never had to get into the Truma discussion.
No.
This applies to a slave.
No, the slave with the Truma Rameir is saying that's simple. There, it's obvious it's a detriment. It's obvious it's a detriment. But here, it's Bas Chorin. So there are other subtleties. Now, these still over. It's a joke, but it relates to this. This person, his father was an alcoholic, and every night he'd go to the tavern, get himself sick, and every night he'd go into the street. Like years ago, you used to see, sprawled out on the street with all the other drunkards, and they'd have to bring him home every night. It became embarrassing. Besides his father destroying himself. So he says to his father, you know, tonight I'm not letting you go out, and I'm going to give you a tour of the Bowery, and you'll see exactly what these people look like. And you, when you're drunk, that's exactly what you look like. And by understanding what you're doing to yourself, hopefully you're going to win yourself in the bottle. Yeah, okay, that's what the son says to the father, okay? So the father restrains himself that night, gives him a tour, 2 in the morning, what's going on down there. People sprawled out on the sidewalks. People, their mouths are at the curb after they, emptied everything into the gutter. And he says to his father, "Father, you see what these people look what they've done to themselves." So the father says, "I want to get a closer look." So the father walks over to one of these drunks who's semi-conscious, and he bends down and he says to him, and he speaks to him. Comes back. So the son says, what did you ask him? He says, I had a discussion. He said the father's not willing to share. He says, by the way, what did my father say? He says he wanted to know what he drank. You understand? This is Avdo. You have a Bas Chorin. You want to be with a Shivcha Kananis. The answer is Zile Shchichale Pritzale. Because what they offer, nobody offers. So you're willing to pass on everything for that. But you'll be lying in squalor and whatever it is, it's okay. As long as you have your bottle.
These rules, I mean, they're very general rules. We don't take any subjectivity into making decisions on this because we have, every situation is different.
Well, Tussa's going to ask a question. What about if it's a child? What about if the slave is a child where he hasn't engaged in sexual activity with a woman? So Rameir should agree. Tosis Rameir would agree.
We're making a lot of assumptions about people's
It's not
actions.
an assumption. It's a reality.
I'm
It's
not
a
talking about
reality.
yourself, I'm talking about other
No.
people.
The answer is it's a reality.
But
It's
not the same
no.
reality for
If you would know, it's different. You're right, right? Let's see. Tevi was the slave of Rabbi Gamliel. He was Talmud Chochem. He was no question. For him, this wouldn't apply. He would be the exception to the rule. But on the average, this is what every slave is.
Also, we don't know everyone's opportunities for when they're free. I mean, different people.
Doesn't make a difference. This is called a detriment. Being a detriment, you see, if you learn like Rashi, the way the Tosas explained Rashi. See, if you say it's up to the person, we could say with like Tosas, if we could say with certainty, he would want you to represent him. So then you can say it's subject to each individual, right? But what about if you say the Torah points him to be the shliach by Zochanom Shalom Anav? Torah says if it's a chov, so we're not looking at the individual. Denying a slave this, that's called chov. It's a classification. And if that's the case, we don't appoint a shliach. The Torah doesn't appoint. If it's the individual, so that it's very individualized. But if you say the Torah, the question is, how do you versus slaves? This denying a slave this, is that called a chov or not a chov? If it's called a chov, the Torah will not appoint a shliach.
Thanks for this question about valuing the right of retraction. We know that the Rabbanan put in a totally people kind of concept in the Torah. That's a rabbinic.
It's not rabbinic. It's a Torah.
from.
Once they put it in, it becomes a Torah law. It's not rabbinic.
You used it how from the Torah to put it in.
No.
Okay, but however you define it.
Yeah.
They clearly valued some sort of very temporal ability to retract.
So you have within Torah the Hebrew. First, by get, it's not simply correct. By get, he should for sure not. A man gives his wife a get. Could he retract Torah the Dibur? Mar says he cannot. No. It has nothing to do with the document.
Where is he retracting? At what point is he retracting?
No, it's because he's still a shlich lo holocha. The man is delivering the get. No, not tikkun olam. No tikkun olam. We're tikkun olam here.
Where is it gone? Where's the get?
The get is in transit to be delivered to the slave. The husband is still delivering it. The shliach is the equivalent of the master.
Right. The slave or to what page?
Either way, to the slave. Let's talk to the slave. He gives a get to the shliach to deliver to the slave.
Right.
According to Rameir, until the get is put into the hand of the slave, in whose hand is it? It's the hand. That's the answer. Of course, he could retract.
I understand. I'm just saying, is there an inconsistency here? Because the comments say that there is no real value in that right of retraction. Okay? Once he puts it into the hand of the shliach, he can't retract according to the
Why?
comment.
Why?
Because that was his desire is to free him. according to
No,
the way-
because the one who received it takes possession on behalf of the slave.
Fine,
That's the reason.
fine. And yet we see
What do you say?
elsewhere
That what?
that women do value a right of retraction.
When?
It's a limited
Has no relevance to this. Has no relevance. This is beyond Tokadei Dibur.
I know it's beyond.
Since it's beyond Tokadei Dibur, so how could you retract? You give me something which is definitely beneficial to the one and I take it on his behalf. An hour later says I retract. How could you retract it? It's too late. Same thing.
So, Rabbi, what about the argument of disowning the slave?
Wait, let's talk about selling the slave. He says he could have sold a slave to a non-Kohen master. I mean, so what's the argument? How does Rameir respond to that? Right? He could sell him since he could deny him the right of Trum by selling him to a non-Kohen master. Therefore, it's not called a detriment. Rameir says it's still a detriment. So you could say either one or two things. I know, so how do we understand Rameir? Wait a second. Wait. Good. Factually, even though he could, but he hasn't. He could, but he hasn't. We're trying to minimize the chov. The Chacham say, since it's something which is so temporary and can be taken so easily, how does a slave perceive emancipation? Does he see it, he's being denied, or does he see it as all benefit? The Chacham say that since it could be taken from so easily, being denied truma, he doesn't see that as a detriment. Therefore, he sees this all gain, no loss. Rabbi Meir says, but factually, the master hasn't retracted. The master still is master. Therefore, since it has this negative element for him, he sees it as chov. If he sees it as chov, therefore you can't represent him. That's the argument of Rabbi and the Chachamim.
Shroom is what? Cheap food?
Yeah, it's very cheap.
Food, but
Correct.
Is the slave paying for that food? Maybe in that case, if the slave was paying
Before, Tosa says, sometimes, let's say, the slave has to supplement his needs.
Right.
Ordinary food is expensive. Truma, you can pick up for nothing.
So now he loses that.
Not only could you pick up for nothing, he says you could even go to the Beis Hagoren, to the distribution centers. They'll give it to him. So if that's the case,
So then it's understandable that it's a real...
even though the master in a moment could sell him, but actually the master hasn't sold him. So until he sells me, it's a detriment to me. But I addressed something which we didn't talk about yesterday. I just started. The halacha is, I always mention the Gemara Bava Basra. The halacha is you cannot consecrate or sell something that's not in your rishus. That's not under your control. Right? Something's stolen from you. After something's stolen, you want to sell, and you would, the victim, you want to sell the item at a discounted rate to a third party, and somebody's willing to pay for it. Can you sell it? You're not in the position to sell it. Because the Torah says that regarding consecration or transfer of ownership, it has to be yours, and it has to be in your domain. The word is domain. The question what domain means. It says shelo. Person steals something, he cannot consecrate it or sell it because it's not his. That's edu shelo. What about the one who owns it? It's edu b'shuso. It's not under his control, therefore he cannot sell it. So there's a discussion if a person loses something, an aveda, and he says, wherever it may be, I want to be magdish it. I'll consecrate it. Can you consecrate an aveda? It's yours. Wait. The question is what Rishusa means. Does it mean to say it has to be accessible to you? Or Eid B'Shusa means something other than that. Eid B'Shusa means you don't have full rights in it any longer. This we discussed yesterday. When a thief steals something from a person, right? The thief has full liability. If anything should happen to that object, he has full liability. Now why does he have full liability? The Gemara says in Bava Metzia, a person who's a shul is a borrower. What is his level of liability? Unlimited liability. Why? Because kol hano shelo. Because he has all the benefits of an owner. If an owner has an item and the item is destroyed, regardless of how it's destroyed or why it's destroyed, he takes the full loss because he's the owner. So here the borrower, he has all the rights of an owner without any cost factor. So what, he shouldn't have the liability of an owner? Therefore, he has unlimited liability. Okay? So, the thief, why does he have full liability when he steals something? Because the Torah gives him interest, gives him monetary interest in the object, and because of those monetary interests in the object, if something should happen to the object, he has full liability. So the basis for the liability is the Torah gives him a financial interest in the object. And that's what we discussed, why when it's altered, why immediately does it become his? Because that financial interest in the object, that allows it to become his. Once the alteration takes place.
Financial interest is only for the purpose of liability, not for any other benefit, correct?
No.
Or does it follow inevitably?
What happens if the person steals a boat, and the boat normally costs? There's a cost to rent the boat. Does the thief benefit from the boat? Does he have to pay the fee? No. Why? Because he has an intrinsic financial interest in that boat. And he pays nothing. No, but he can't be magdish because Torah says he has to return it. It has to be fully his. He has rights in the item, but it's not his. It's any shalom. And the other any b'shuso means it's not under my control, mean my financial control.
How would you line up Rishuso with the distinction between ownership and possession?
We're saying the word Rishusa means it's not under your jurisdiction because you cannot exercise full ownership rights.
So if the slave runs away, you
Said-
cannot sell him.
Wait. That's my question. So if you say Eid B'Shusa means because someone else has financial interests. So if the slave runs away, you could be magdish him. You could sell him.
It's not in your...
No, because nobody has. I'm the only one who has full financial interest in him.
So if that's refused, then that's he could sell it.
So he could sell him, even though I have no control over him. Right?
And it's not in your possession at this moment.
But that's not called not possession. He's still in my possession. Possession means I fully own him. Anything you fully own, I could sell. But if you say that you cannot sell an aveda, because possession means you have control, you can exercise your rights over it, where he's not available, he's fled. So how could you sell to a Jewish master? How could you sell to another Jewish master? He's no longer here.
Depends how you hold.
Why can't you sell it?
Wait.
How you
What does
hold
that have
it.
to do with heckler? I mean, you can't be makdish, but you can sell it.
Selling and magdish is the same thing. The Gemara says, from there I learn that just as you can't consecrate something, you can't sell something. Right? So over here, if the slave is fled, he's no longer, you have no control. Yet here it says, even if he flees, he could sell him to a Yisrael master, and he'll forfeit his truma rights.
So Reb Meir seemingly argues, because
And
he doesn't have
Rav
control.
Chaim Ozer, in the Achiezer, he cites Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi holds that you cannot be magdish in Aveda. Means you can't sell an Aveda. So if that's the case, how do you reconcile with here? Here it says, the Chacham says Rameh, you could sell him. Unless you say that's the Machlokes Rameh and the Chachamim. Right?
Bob refused.
What does it mean, Eid B'Shuso? Does Eid B'Shuso mean you have control? Or Eid B'Shuso means that somebody has infringed on your ownership rights? Because the Torah gives him rights. So now situation no ownership rights. So the Chacham say, therefore you could sell him to the non-Kohen master. Rameir says, no, you can't sell him to a non-Kohen master. Because if you say they all agree, everybody agrees you can't. So how do you understand the Gemara? He could sell him. How could you sell him? It's just the Chacham say you can't sell an Aveda.
Okay?
You can't sell an
You
Aveda.
still don't have to come onto this particular line of thinking. You could disown it.
You cannot be mafkir. Same hefker is same thing. You
No,
can't.
you cannot mafkir.
You cannot be mafkir something that's stolen. You cannot be mafkir something that's stolen.
So a slave running away is like stolen?
No, it depends. No, what we're saying now. If you say that ein b'shusa means that someone else has a financial interest, nobody else has a financial interest. So I could sell him, I could disown him, even though he's not I have no control over him.
The year should not the same as being makdish.
No.
Because you can be miyash.
Because that the Torah does. It's not you. Yush is a state of despair.
Right.
When you have a state of despair, there's a consequence. The Torah brings about that consequence.
You can't be used as a slave, then.
You could have.
Slave, yeah.
You could have.
But if the man wants to disown his slave who ran away, he cannot do it?
It's clear from this Gemara he can.
He can.
He's clear. If the Chum say he could sell him. So if he could sell him, he definitely could disown him.
According to Rabbi Meir.
Maybe yes, maybe no.
The fact that
Maybe yes, maybe no. It depends.
Because if
It depends.
Rabbi Meir
What is
would
the
say
basis
yes,
why Rameir argues? That's what we're trying to explain. Why does Rameir argue with the Chachamim? He says it's a detriment. So if you know it's a detriment because he can't sell him. If he flees, he can't sell him. So it's a detriment. Chacham say he could sell him. Why? Because that's not called Ein B'Shuso.
But so he would also have to say he cannot disown him.
Correct.
He cannot because he's not in his
But it's
possession.
easy to say everybody agrees that Ein B'Shuso means only when there's an infringement on the monetary interest. So what's the argument? The argument is, does the slave see this as a detriment? This temporary situation of mine, where any moment it could be taken from me, that being denied to me, do I see that as a chov? That's the argument to remain the chachamim. Rameir says he still sees it as a chov. You know, there's an expression, penny wine pounds foolish. You say, what does the slave understand? The moment pleasure is worth the whole world. So even though it's true, he could take it away from me, but you know something, right now I have it, and therefore it's a chov. Chachamim say no. We give greater benefit to the slave. He sees the full picture. He prefers to be fully freed rather than have this temporary situation where he may not have it in a moment.
Rabbi, the fact that the Gemara is silent on this point, that there might be another Machlokes Tanayim underneath it.
No, because the Gemara is going shifting to the next question. What do you do with a non-Kohen slave?
That's what the Gemara usually bring out. If the basis of the argument is predicated on another Machlokes Tanayim, doesn't the Gemara usually
There's no other machlokes tanoim. What's the other machlokes tanoim here?
No, it's from Rabbi Meir. If it's hinging upon this idea of
Okay, we'll stop here.